I want to return to that story we were going to talk about a little earlier about the Road Accident Fund. And once again, let me just give you the introduction. Despite facing threats of being wound up, the RAF says such a move would be impossible. The Chief Executive, Collins Letsoalo, I'm going to talk to him in just a moment, says the only way the entity could be disbanded, either by way of liquidation or by abolishing it, is for law to be enacted. In other words, the legislature to amend or repeal the RAF Act. It's in a sorry position. The liabilities of the fund, I read, have exceeded income since the early 1980s, would you believe? Claims ranging between 13 billion and 17 billion reportedly still have to be paid. Collins Letsoalo, good afternoon to you and welcome. Thanks for joining us. In the position that I've just outlined now as far as the RAF is concerned, how in fact do you still keep operating?
Afternoon, Jeremy. Afternoon to the viewers. The problem of the RAF, as you said, started in 1981. In 1996, the RAF Act was passed. But the reality of the matter is that we have had what we call asset liability mismatch at a point of where we receive our funding. We receive our fuel levy each and every month from the South African Revenue Services that has been collected, where people put in the fuel, then that money is collected. What then is the issue is that we then receive this money monthly, but usually what we have is claims that are far more than that. What we have seen as a problem is that we pay in lump sums and we don't receive that money in lump sums. So we want to match that. So we should be able to, at a point where we could pay in installments, be able to match what we receive on a monthly basis to what we take out. And that should keep us on a sustainable footing.
And is that what the Transport Minister means by implementing a new operational model?
Yes, but the new operating model involves that. It involves that, but the part where we have been very litigious as the Road Accident Fund. Jeremy, we collect about 43 billion a year in fuel levies. And South Africans must know that we spend 17 billion in administrative costs, dispensing out 26 billion. So we spend 17 billion to pay out 26 billion. That is unsustainable. 10.6 billion of that goes to the lawyers. And that's why we have decided that we are going to go to what the Act expects us to do in terms of Section 4(1)(b) of our Act that says that we must investigate and settle claims and not litigate unnecessarily. 95% of these claims end up being settled anyway in front of the doorstep of the court at the cost of 10.6 billion to Road Accident Fund, which is unsustainable, and that's why we are changing it, and that's what we have agreed with the minister we should do.
So your real fight then is with unscrupulous lawyers who you claim want to enrich themselves at the expense of claimants. How do you resolve that problem?
Well, as I said, once we get to a point where we settle claims, it should be easy, and we should be able to develop a scheme where it's easy for someone to actually claim. At this point, it's very litigious, it's very complex, and it makes it easy for these unscrupulous lawyers to take money away. I mean, we have had instances where someone would take actually the whole amount, when in fact they sign things called contingency agreements, which entitles them to a maximum of 25% of the money that they would have claimed from the Road Accident Fund. But in instances, they've taken money up to 100% of the money that should be going to the claimant. And on our side as well, we have had corrupt colleagues who have been working with them to ensure that they defraud the claimant. So that's what we should be cleaning out, and that's what the minister has instructed us to do.
Do you think the RAF is going to survive? I mean, what would happen if it were to be closed down, if that legislation were to be passed? Well,
the RAF will survive. The issue about the RAF is the way I said we pay out claims. I mean, we would, if someone is injured and the person is 40 years old, we would give somebody the money in lump sum until they're 65. It's a lot of earnings. And we have, in our research, found out that in 2 to 3 years, that money is gone. Our view is that people should be paid on a regular basis, as it would be the income that they are getting, and that should allow the RAF to continue to operate. And it should, if we do that, within a year, we should be cash positive and be able to start to buy assets to meet the future liabilities. So RAF is not is unsustainable because of the current model. Once we implement the model that we envisage, that should make it more sustainable. So it needs a a year and a half, we should be able to be back on our feet again.
All right, just a final question then. I'm hearing lots of woulds and coulds. I mean, how close are we to the implementation of a new operational model?
We have already started, Jeremy. We have started the new operation model. The first thing was to ensure that we no longer have a panel of attorneys that is working on this, to make sure that we focus on reducing legal costs by about 75%. That process has started in earnest, and we are working very hard to ensure that we are settling all these claims, and we are doing very well, as I can say. And that's what I'm saying. Give us a year and a half, you'll see the fruits of this hard work we are actually carrying out.
On the surface of it, it might appear to be a very dull and dry subject, but wait until you have an accident, then suddenly it's very important. We'll get back to that story at some point. Collins Letsoalo from the Road Accident Fund, the Chief Executive Officer, thank you very much indeed.